Well, it's that time again for another episode of Cruising on the Edge, where there's real talk, real recovery, real purpose, and real results. So I'm your host, Carol Cruz, and I just want to welcome anyone that's new or folks that are coming back. I want to thank you for coming back. So today we are going to talk about or continue to talk about transformation. So, share a little story. Over last weekend, I had a plant. You know, those plants that you either overwater or you underwater or you don't give them enough sunlight or nurturing and things like that. Well, I am so not a green thumb. My mother was a green thumb, but I didn't get that. I didn't get that in my genes. But this plant, this particular plant is a spider plant, and it was given to me by my sister-in-law a couple years ago. And when she gave it to me, it was cut up. Wasn't looking all that great. And I was so proud of myself that I actually helped this plant to grow. I had repotted it at that point, and I definitely wanted to uh, help this thing to grow and flourish, and it did. I brought it inside. It did really well when it was inside during the summertime, spring and summer. I would take it outside so that it could get some fresh air and some natural light and all those good things that you either read about or you ask ChatGPT to, what do I do with this plant? So, long story short, I actually want to show you a picture of what my expression was when I first looked at this plant. So give me 1 second here. This is all new, showing a little slide presentation. All right. Well, that's Carol. So looking at that plant, I also brought it into what happens when we know that something is wrong, but we're not ready to deal with it. Right? Can anyone relate with that? You've had something that's been kind of hanging over, not wanting to address a conversation that you may have to have with your partner, spouse, or your boss, or those bills that are piling up. And you're avoiding those because that's our topic today as well. What are you avoiding? It could be also your health. You've been looking to lose that weight and you've been reading all the books and all the programs, and you've got a gym membership that you don't quite use often enough. And you know that you've been avoiding what the doctor might be saying if you go in for a physical. So that is my expression of this plant. So I was looking at this plant and I am feeling like, what can I possibly do? What did I do to make it look this way? I'm gonna stop for a minute. So that question on what do you do when you have something that is visually wrong. You may have learned, you took the course or you listened to your favorite podcast, and you wrote your notes and you came up with some new strategies and some new skills and some new things that you could apply, but nothing's working. Nothing's working. I think about uh, um, 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 my mentor who passed away a few years ago. And he used to say, we're all learners, doers, and teachers. And I recently only found out that came from Richard Bach's book, The Illusions on Illusions. And I thought, yeah, when I'm wanting to or needing to change something, I want the transformation, I want the outcome, but I'm not sure if I am all the way in, if I've got the buy-in to do the work. So that's what I want to share with you today. And a few things that may be helpful. I've been utilizing them in my journey, in my recovery, in my professional life, and things like that. So that is where I want to go with you all today. So when again, looking at that, we're all learners, doers, and teachers. It's not enough to be just a learner. Like, what do I also need? I need to practice. I can write. I have books of journaling and notes taking and videos that I have uploaded and seminars online and in person that I've gone to. They're all great, but they're just collecting dust because for me to put my learning, I need to put it into action. And for me to really get good at it, I have to master it, right? So doing that, what does it take? What does it take for me to learn a new technique? What does it take for me to, keep going without giving up? So I want to show you this next slide on where I was with the plant this last past weekend. So again, just give me one sec. I'm learning all new things with the platform that I use for recording. Okay, that's not the one. Go for the next one. There we go. All right. All right. So there is me. Sometimes we also have to recognize that transformation requires the soil to be disrupted, and we need to examine the roots. So, as I was pulling out the plant, and again, trigger warning for any plant lovers out there, I am not an expert. As you can see, I just want to utilize this situation or this event uh, as an experience to how transformation has worked in my life. And the disruptions that I've experienced have been a loss of a job or having that hard conversation with my partner because it was just what just wasn't working out. Our relationship had come to a standstill. He wasn't interested in going to therapy, couples therapy. So what did I do? I took a deeper dive into getting therapy for myself and examining what was underneath those areas where I wanted to transform, where I wanted to be the best version of myself. What did I need to do? So there it is. In that plant, I pulled it out. I looked at the roots. But one thing that I discovered, they weren't all bad roots. I know in the picture it kind of looks that way, but in actuality, in the plant, all the roots didn't look bad. There were a lot of good, healthy roots. And that goes for me. There was a lot of great parts that I had changed. I mean, I'm coming up on 32 years of recovery next month. That took a lot of work to get to that point. What did I need? Well, I had gotten a therapist. I was going to meetings. I had a sponsor. I had a community to connect to. All of those things were so important for my recovery and for my healing. So when I looked at this plant, I said, wow, there's hope here. There's actually hope here. I don't have to resist not wanting to help this plant survive. So as I cut away some of those bad roots, those really dried up roots. I also decided to change the soil. I had to change the soil, right? So growth begins. Again, growth begins when we make room for what still has life. So I saw that there still was life there. Once I cut away those dry roots that were also strangling. They were also strangling the good roots. And if I look at that, being in a job that, uh, may be stressful, you know, you get up at the same time, you have a routine, you get to work, you don't really talk to anybody. It's the same in and out routine, day in, day out. You're just collecting the paycheck at the end of the week. What do you need? Ask yourself, what do I need so that I can transform, so that I could change and I can grow? So let me get out of this slide if it will let me. Woo-hoo. Okay, there we go. Okay, let me get out of that slide. There we go. Thanks. All right. So what's next? What's next after I've pulled away some of those roots? What's next when I recognize that there is still life there, that I'm not a failure because because I'm feeling fear of making changes in my life? What do I need to do next? There is also, I'm just thinking of an author, um, Angelus Aaron, who wrote the book about the second, not the second coming, but like the second part or part of your life. I'm 63 years old. The last thing that I could have ever imagined at 63 and having, multiple years of recovery. Yes, I have a lot of lived experience and I have a lot of work experience in the behavioral health field. But I'm also stepping into transitioning into tech and doing more AI and becoming an AI consultant, becoming an entrepreneur. I just started an LLC, CLC Creative Ventures, that is providing me with, it hasn't provided me with income yet, but I'm working on things that really bring joy to my life. So that was what was next for me, is finding those places in my life that maybe hopefully you can relate to this, is that, what brings you joy? Ask yourself, what brings you joy today? For me, my job being very stressful, the current job that I am in at the crisis call center, it doesn't allow me to be creative. It's very scripted. It is very, straight lined. This is what I have to do. This is what I have to say. It's a lot of active listening, which is really important, that I've been able to build that muscle. But at the same time, I don't get to, only on my days off or before I start work, because I don't start until 4 o'clock in the afternoon, that I get to do things like this. My podcasting. When I started podcasting, I thought, wow, this is everything that I've always wanted to do. I had no idea what was underneath. I didn't have an idea that had to be the producer, that I had to be the director, that I had to be the writer. Well, I use ChatGPT and other platforms to help me in building content and things like that. How was I going to be in my public speaking? That was really nerve-wracking. But even looking at the surface was what I wanted to do. Underneath was, the hard work, the things that I had to pull away, the fear, the doubt, the insecurity. And I had to start uprooting. What good roots were doing was the confidence, the courage, being bold, knowing that no matter what, even if I fail, I learn by my mistakes. And it's not even about failure. I get to learn something, I get to do it, and I get to one day master it enough to teach it to someone else, like I did with peer support specialists. I was a peer support specialist trainer. I don't do that work anymore, but I got good at it. I got really good at it. And I enjoyed doing it because I enjoyed watching folks like yourself get into this field and help others. That's what I feel that I'm been brought here to do. God didn't make junk, you know. Sometimes God says no, sometimes God says yes, and sometimes he says wait in the hallway, be patient. And that's what I needed to do with this plant. But I first had to take it into action. I had to start uprooting and replanting or repotting so that I could start seeing some results. So I'm going to go through a couple of, lessons. And if you want to write them down, that's great. They will be in the show notes. I do need to just go to my notes because they are a little bit in depth. So just give me one sec. I'm not in that place. Boop, boop, boop. All right. All right. Again, and while I'm doing this, think about some goals, some target areas that you are looking to, change in your life. Again, I often have said this to folks. I've said it to myself. No one's coming to save you. You might, someone might come up to you and say, "Hey, let's get this started and want to partner with you," and things like that. And that's like, "Ooh," you get elevated, you get excited. And then you get home and then you're like, wow, that's going to be a lot of work. I've got to work with somebody else, which is all good. Those are honest feelings. Allow yourself to feel those things. So, lesson 1, all right, is on checking the soil, right? So that's what I did. Check the soil. But I had to start becoming willing to start over, right? Like I said, 63, starting over, it's unheard. I should be, I didn't want to shit on myself. I should be preparing to retire. Well, now, look at this. Do I look 63? I don't feel 63. And the work that I'm doing with the podcast and becoming an AI consultant, yes, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of studying. It's a lot of, testing and things like that. I'm building AI agents. Again, I thought I would never get this far into tech, but I'm really grateful that I am, that I get to learn something, do it, and then also teach it one day to someone else like yourself. So sometimes we get stuck. That's what I shared about in episode 17. Why are you stuck? What are you avoiding to get unstuck? That's what I wanted to put out in this podcast, not just about how to be in recovery, how to stay in recovery. For me, I didn't think, over 30 years ago that I was ever going to get this far. I foresaw all the work that it was going to take for me to get there. And I wasn't sure if I was up for the challenge. That's another thing. Are you challenging yourself? When others will challenge you, but why don't you challenge yourself? Make a goal, even if it's a small one. And even if you get a small shift or a small win out of that's progress, right? It's progress, not perfection. We say it often in recovery. Look at some of the routines that you've had. Look at some of the beliefs that you have, and start transforming them into positive. If you believe you're never going to do it, then you're never going to do it. So change that. Change your wording, right? I believe I'm going to work towards whatever it is that I want to do. Whatever that is. I want to work towards getting a new job. So how am I going to do that? Well, maybe it's upgrading my resume. Maybe it is researching other fields that I have somewhat experienced. again, I didn't have a whole lot of experience around tech and AI, but I was kind of dibbling and dabbling around with ChatGPT and actually helping me to rewrite my resume. And then, you know, got into podcasting, went to this podcast summit last month. And then I saw, Alicia Little and as the AI queen. And I was like, wow, I was hooked. I love innovation. I love forward thinking. And this was like the perfect match for me. Find that information, do your research, right? So when checking the soil is not just looking at it and saying, okay, it's dead. It's kind of like be curious, curious, think like child, have that childlike curiosity. Think about the things that you've always wanted to do, but you've been putting them off. I didn't There was times where I waited for my son to grow up. Now he's grown, he's a dad, he's a husband, he's on his own. My ex is my good friend. We're better friends than we are a married couple. Maybe one day I'll do a podcast on that. On how are you friends with your ex and stay married? We're still legally married. It's okay. That's our business, right? Anybody wants to judge it, go ahead, run with it. I think you have enough to do in your own lane. So ask yourself some questions. What does this season require for me to learn? What does this season require for you to learn? Summer's almost over. Sorry. Yeah, summer's almost over. Kids are going back to school. You've been working through the summer. Maybe you took a little vacation time. But what do you want to do? What do you want to do this fall? Like I said, do some research. And maybe you need to ask for help. If I'm not saying you have to go to a therapist, if there's some things from your past that are, again, in those dead roots, maybe you do. Maybe you need to find someone clinical to help you kind of sort through some of those dead roots, and so that you can start moving them away and start practicing something new. Some practice strategies could be choose an area where you feel stuck, like I mentioned earlier. Maybe it is technology. Maybe it's setting that boundary, right? Having that hard conversation. But first, you got to start setting the boundary, and start looking at what is it that I want to say to this person or say to my boss. Maybe it is sitting down and just sorting through your bills and then listing out, these are all the expenses. This is what's coming in. This is where I'm in the red. What do I need to do to change that? Maybe I need to talk to a financial advisor or a CPA or, a friend who does bookkeeping on the side. I used to do bookkeeping. I don't do it anymore, but I'd be happy to talk to someone as long as it's not like really in-depth things around your finances. Again, who do I need to ask? Who do I need to ask for help? Where do I need to start communicating with myself differently? I write an affirmation journal every day. I write an affirmation, but I started off with I'm grateful. And the reason why I do that is that, gratitude is from the heart. And I am the most important person to me at this time. Yes, my grandchildren are important. Yes, my son is very important. But there's nothing I can do for them if I'm not doing for myself first. So what's some next steps? And this, again, is still on number one. Maybe I need to watch that tutorial or read that chapter in the book. And I'll put some book suggestions also in the show notes. And then ask yourself, am I expecting myself to know something I've never given myself permission to learn? I'll say that again. Am I expecting myself to know something I've never given myself permission to learn? You don't know about everything. I don't know squat about a garden, but I can attempt to do it. I can attempt to make it better versus throwing out everything. And that's what thought came to mind as I looked at this plant and thought, oh my goodness, it's dead. It's on its way out. I'm just going to throw it away. How many times have you thrown away your dreams and your hopes? I know I have. Don't do that to yourself. You deserve more. So lesson 2 could be, again, examining the roots. What are you resisting? What do you know? What do you don't know? What do you need to know? Who do you need to ask? All of those things are included there. Why is it bothering you it's bothering you to look at this plant or look at this part of your life, and you can hide. You can hide in your bedroom. You could hide in a room full of people. Can't tell you how many times I've hidden in a room full of people and I felt so alone. I shared that in another video in regards to having all the tools that I needed, but feeling so alone and so helpless and so hopeless. You deserve so much more. You don't have to go there. You don't have to feed into that part that just wants to, again, choke you and remove all those dreams and passions that you have. You can uproot those things. You can make them flourish, but it's going to take time and patience. And then I'm going to move to what could be the next step. Finish this question. If I actually dealt with this, I actually dealt with the plant, and I'm going to keep moving, referring to the plant, but the relationship, the job, the finances. If I actually dealt with it, am I afraid what I might discover? Might discover that the relationship has come to an end. It took me a long time to realize that part of our relationship had come to an end, and that I never realized after looking at the roots of our relationship that we would be, friends. We started off as friends, and I'm so glad that we're in the place that we are at today. Jobs. I have been in many different jobs, especially around behavioral health, addiction, mental health. I love the work, but I no longer want to do it on this platform. I love to take AI and teach people how to use it effectively, how it can be used possibly in your recovery or in the behavioral health field. But I'm not there yet to teach it to someone. So I'm continually staying in the learner zone and then learning how to do it so that I can teach it to someone else. And the challenge is, don't try to repair the entire root system. I wasn't it would be great. It would be like a miracle. It's a miracle. I replanted this plant and now it's flourishing. No. And I think that's what we are also doing to ourselves. We're waiting for instant gratification because we make one step. Well, this is only 4 steps that I'm sharing with you today. There might be many, many more. And it may take some time. It probably is going to take some time. I don't know what the outcome of my investment, my financial investment, my my physical investment, my spiritual investment, all the investments that I put in the last month or so into AI, I don't know what the outcome, I know what I want the outcome to be, and that's what my goal is. That is the golden ring at the end of the tunnel. I see the light at the end of the tunnel, but I've also been in places where there is no light. There is no light. And the reason why there's no light is because I am blocking it. I am blocking it because I'm thinking about what other people are going to think. I'm thinking about how I'm going to fail it before I've even started. That may be blocking your light as well. And then the reflection question: is my resistance warning me that something is wrong, or is it pointing in the direction towards the place where I need to grow? Again, I'm going to leave these in the show notes. Lesson 3, prune to make room for new growth. Face the fear and do it anyway. There's a song from Erica Mason. I'll put her link in the show notes as well. Erica Mason, Do It Anything. It's a very catchy rap song that I absolutely love. I listen to it when I'm walking. It's a great motivator. And it's like, we need to face the fear, see it for what it is. If you're feeling the fear, you might as well face it, but don't let it kick you in the ass. Just keep going. Just keep moving. I tell people that my experience when I was stuck, it was like cement was on my knees or on my ankles, and I couldn't move, but I could see on sides of me, and I saw friends doing everything they loved. Their lives were looking great. Yeah, don't always pay attention to people on Facebook because it's not always the true story. But I did. Yeah, I was hearing from friends, their lives were, were changing and transforming. And I was looking over here, other friends that were, or family members that were writing the book, which I'm still doing, right? And going on vacations and things like that. All the things that I wanted to do. And all I was doing was wishing my life away. Well, at 63, I don't have time. I don't have time. I am in the second half of my life, and I just don't have time to waste. Today, tomorrow is not promised, as they say. Have those hard conversations. Prepare yourself. Again, if it's fear of being alone, yes, I was very much afraid to living alone. My first venture was moving out to Las Vegas. I lived alone there. I moved back to Connecticut to be with my son and my grandbabies. And I found this apartment. It's near the water. I really feel like my mom was, she had kind of plugged in. She's like, okay, I'm going to make sure you get that place. And it was perfect. It's been the perfect place. And it may not be, you may not find the perfect physical place, but you got to start here, right? So when we're having those hard conversations, we want to have those hard conversations with other people, whether it's a job, a boss, a friend. We have to have the hard conversations with ourselves. Ask yourselves those questions, because it's not worth the energy that we put towards disappointment. There's always going to be disappointment. There's always going to be suffering. Wouldn't you want to make the decision on how you get yourself out of that versus something else, like that physical that you got and the news isn't that good? But there's things that you can do to change it, and changing your health, getting healthier, mind, body, and spirit. May need to do some praying, and prayer doesn't have to attach itself to religion. It's not. It is a conversation. It's a conversation you get to have with a higher being or spirit guide or ancestor or God, whoever you want to label it, even if you don't want to label it, that's okay too. But prayer can be very effective and very, very fulfilling. So I'm going to move into the last one because, again, I'm going to add all of this into the show notes. So you'll have that readily available to you. And the last one, and I'm going to show you a couple videos as I'm reading off the last one. Not videos, just these last couple of slides. Just give me one sec. All right, here we go. Sorry for the delay. There we go. So just because you can't see the growth yet, it doesn't mean the roots aren't changing. That's what, I wouldn't say that's what my plant looks like right now, but it definitely looks healthier. There are some new sprouts already coming out since I replanted it on Sunday. And I'm pretty proud of myself because the thing that I was avoiding looks pretty good. And like I said, I'm really proud of myself. And then this last one, whoops, it wants to go. Oh, maybe that was the last one. Oh, that was the planting. That's the last one. Yep, that's the last one. So let me just, again, get back to finish that. And yeah, so repot, let it take root. So repot your goals. Repot them. If they are stuck somewhere in a journal, and a bunch of notes like this, pull it out. Dust them off. Things can regrow. And even if the plant, after repotting it, doesn't do that well, it doesn't make me a failure. If you decide you need to decide, you can decide what transformation's worth is. If I don't transform, if I don't take action, if I don't take that leap, what's the cost? What's the cost? Like I said, I don't have time to waste. I don't have money to waste either. But if it's not working yet, maybe I need to ask for help. I'm in several different communities now outside of my recovery community that are helping me to clear my path to what it is that I want. When was the last time you asked yourself what you wanted? When was the last time you asked yourself what you needed? Do you need to start a recovery program or refurbish the recovery program? I had to change out the tools that I was using in my first year of recovery to what I'm using now in my almost 32 years of recovery. What will it take to transform? It's going to take a lot. I'm being perfectly honest with you. It's going to take time. It's going to take effort, but you got to start somewhere, right? My peace is more important. My happiness is more important. My sense of confidence is an inside job. yes, I can get that a girl, from outside sources. But if I'm not giving myself, the pat on the back or the hug, I can't expect it from someone else. Can you? And so I'm going to end the episode with just asking you if there was something that I shared in this episode that resonated. I hope there is. I will put a lot of this information in the show notes. I hope that you look behind or look under those, that those roots, because there's probably a lot of great roots, but there also might be some dry ones that you just got to pull away. You got to let go of. Stop trying to choke your dreams. Give them freedom. Give them what they need, the nourishment. Allow your creativity to come out. Use your voice. If you've been mute and your voice has been shut down, find your voice. Even if it is watching this podcast or any other podcast, I know there's so much information out there. And yes, we're inundated by information of what's going on in the world. But don't let that block you from what you and who you can become. Because becoming the best version of you is your job, is your responsibility, and consistency is the key. So that's the end of this episode. I want to thank you all for hanging out with me. Again, please like, subscribe, share, comment. If there's any other topics you'd like me to provide, I want to change up my podcast to be for you. Yes, it fulfills me when I get to put out this information, but I am a person of service and I'm here for you. So keep showing up, keep doing the work, and keep cruising on the edge. Thank you.